Hi everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Well, today I want to share with you 10 essential flower books that you might want to add to your collection or check out from your local library. And you know, ever since I was a little girl, I've loved two things: books and flowers. And I credit my grandparents for planting these seeds of passion deep in my heart. You know, my grandfather, he was a dentist. He was an outspoken, highly educated man who always stressed the importance of learning. And my grandmother, of course, was a floral judge who gave me a flower-filled life that I'll never forget. And I think my love affair with reading started when my grandfather offered to pay me $1 for every book that I read each month. Well, I quickly discovered that I could devour an entire Boxcar Children mystery in just a short evening. And always the eager entrepreneur, I was quickly raking in $30 a month. And at that point, my grandfather thought, whoa, what did I get myself into? And he quickly added written book reports to this kind of agreement that we had. And you know, I thought, bummer, I don't have any time to do any writing when I have all this great reading to do. So I would trudge back through my grandmother's garden with the latest Frank Peretti novel and kind of hide in the secret burning bush fort that she had made for all of her grandchildren. And it seems almost impossible to create a list of only 10 essential flower gardening books because I have so many. But the ones I've chosen for you today are ones that I just couldn't live without. They're either constant references, give me consistent inspiration, or they're ones where I just feel like the author is an old gardening friend right from the first page. So with all that being said, let me share these wonderful books with you. Now, the first one, and the one that really helped me so much in terms of floral design, is Color Me Floral by Kiana Underwood. Now, after my grandma's passing, I inherited her collection of floral pin frogs, but not knowing how to properly use them, I just stuffed them in a cabinet in our addition and went about just kind of plopping a handful of zinnias into a jar. But that all changed when I read Kiana Underwood's book. She is really a champion of the floral frog, and when you see her designs and how she creates them step by step, it really shows you how to use the floral frog properly, and that you can really create designs that are interesting, innovative, with movement and artistry, interesting color, all by just reading some of Kiana Underwood's work. I believe this is the only book that Kiana has ever written, and I just hope that she writes another one. So the book is organized by seasons, and within the book, Kiana creates 40 different monochromatic designs using flowers that so many of us grow in our garden and appropriate for the season. So of course, in spring, she's using ranunculus. In fall, she's using dahlias. So really, you can get inspiration for so many different seasons, but what I really find helpful, like I said, is the step-by-step pictures that she does and walking you through it. And as you just start to work with your floral pin frog and put in each ingredient piece by piece, I really think it connects you very deeply with whatever you're creating. Instead of just sticking a hand-tied bouquet into a glass jar, don't give up on the floral pin frog. Dust it off, get out your snips, give it a try, and maybe consider getting this book from your library if you feel like you need a little help when it comes to using the floral pin frog. Now, next up is a book I think everyone could really benefit from reading, especially if you buy grocery store flowers, and that is Flower Confidential: The Good, the Bad, and the Beautiful in the Business of Flowers. And in this book, the author, Amy Stewart, really takes us behind the scenes in the imported cut floral trade. It tells us some very disturbing stories of how overseas farm workers are treated, the pesticides and fumigants that remain on our flowers after reaching the store, and also how do we get back to socially responsible cut flower production. If you ask me, the answer lies right in our backyards. But as for this book, I think it's a must read for anyone who either grows or buys flowers of any kind. Well, next up is a book that I'm sure a lot of us have in our floral libraries, and that is Floret Farm's Cut Flower Garden. And if you've ever dreamed of having your own cut flower garden right in your own backyard or starting a flower farm, then this is really a wonderful book to have. Erin seamlessly walks you through the entire process of planting, planting, harvesting, and different varieties that are really good for a cutting garden. It's arranged primarily by the seasons, but really also walks you through all the fundamental tools that you need to really get started out there in the garden. And of course, this book is filled with so many beautiful pictures by Michelle Waite. Definitely, even just looking through the pictures will make you want to tear up half your lawn and replace it with a cut flower garden. And I'm sure after reading this, you'll be heading to the seed store for double click cosmos, scouring the internet for raspberry Sunday peony roots, or begging a friend or relative for just a single cafe au lait tuber. So definitely, if you're into cut flower gardening, think about getting Florette Farm's Cut Flower Garden and also her other two books, A Year in Flowers and Discovering Dahlias. Now this next one I think I mentioned during a garden tour, but it's called Everlastings, How to Grow, Harvest, and Create with Dried Flowers. And when I first opened this book, I knew immediately that myself and the author Bex were kindred spirits, because it seems the dried flowers have a kind of tired reputation of being old dingy creations that are just hung on wallpapered walls. Well, I couldn't disagree more. I love dried flowers. My grandma had a dried flower room in her basement. I think it was one of my aunt's rooms growing up. But of course, once they moved up, all her judging books went in there, all her gardening books, and mainly an entire wall full of dried flowers. And we would often just go down there and collect a bunch of Lunaria, Eucalyptus, Statice, and take them to the nursing home for the residents to enjoy. But I'm not sure if dried flowers just need a fresh dose of creativity, better photography, or just someone to pioneer their beauty. But I think Bex does all three of those things in this beautiful book. And not only does Bex teach you what to grow, how to go about drying, different methods of drying that you can do, also wonderful creative projects, 100% from nature. I love that. You know, I love that she forms her own wreaths and just really unique and creative designs and uses for dried flowers. So if you're like me and feel like dried flowers need to see a resurgence in the cut flower world, definitely check out Bex's book, Everlastings. Next up is a fun, unique book that I hope you'll consider reading. It's called The Posy Book, Garden-Inspired Bouquets That Tell a Story. So do you guys remember Tussie Mussies, May Day bouquets, or the Language of Flower dictionaries? This book combines all those three things into kind of a new and energized way. It's essentially a floral dictionary, but it's all about creating posies with meaning. Because so many times we gift a flower, but do we really think of the meaning that each flower holds? You know, do we send Lily of the Valley to say, "You've made my life complete"? Do we send a gracious hostess a bouquet of sweet peas to say thank you for a lovely time? Probably not. But imagine the deeper meaning that a bouquet could hold if it had actual meaning attached to it. And that's what this book does. Of course, it tells you how to make a posy. It tells you how to make gift tags for your posy. But then in the back, it has an entire floral dictionary based on the old Victorian Language of Flower dictionaries. So if you're really wanting to send a message, say to a long lost lover that you want them back and that you'll always be waiting for them, you would send them a single stem of a stilby. So just so much fun and a wonderful way to literally have the flowers speak for you. Next up is A Year Full of Flowers by Sarah Raven. And I'm sure if you're like me and you love cut flowers, you love Sarah Raven. She's really the queen of the cutting garden, isn't she? And she really outdid herself with her latest book. She takes us through an entire year at her garden, Perch Hill, giving us all kinds of beautiful plant combinations, planting tips, design tips. But let me tell you why I like this book far better than any other she's written. And it actually has nothing to do with her. It has everything to do with the photographs. So maybe you have one of Sarah's older books, say for instance, I think it was called The Bold and Brilliant Garden. Take a look at that book. Sarah Raven is not in that book at all, even though she wrote it. You have no idea what she looks like, and not only that, you don't really know what Perch Hill looks like because the photographer never really pulls back enough to show you her entire garden. So let me find another picture for you. So I hope you guys can see this, but this is a picture of her annual cutting garden path to a little shed that she has here. And you know, even in so many of her other books that I love the books. They're really, really useful. Like The Cutting Garden is also a really useful book, but it doesn't have any photographs where you can really get a full sense of her property. And it wasn't until I started seeing Sarah Raven on television that I kind of realized how ginormous Perch Hill was. I can't recall how many acres it is, but it really is big. And I just really appreciate in this book that I get more of a full sense of who Sarah Raven is by seeing kind of the complete space that she created instead of just close-ups of flowers that she's passionate about. So I think you'll really love this book, A Year Full of Flowers, a little bit more on the expensive side, so maybe worth checking out from your local library first. But for me, it's definitely one that I added to my collection and that I'll reference often. The next book is called Cultivated, The Elements of Floral Style. And reading this book is really like taking a high-end floral design class from the comfort of your home. Kristen covers just about everything in this book that you need to know about designing with flowers. She talks about sourcing flowers, different vessels and tools that you'll need. Then she goes into color and form and how to use them. She covers historical design lessons, talks about finding your own style, which I feel like is really important, and also talks about how to photograph your work so that you really get the most bang for your buck from not only your flowers, but also photographs for your portfolio. So definitely a floral masterclass in book form, Cultivated, The Elements of Floral Style. So the next book is a small but mighty book that I often speak about. It's called Cool Flowers. And it's all about the when, the why, the how of planting hardy annuals, the flowers that want to be planted in the late fall or very early spring, so they can really be blooming when they want to in cooler weather. And by planting them when Lisa says to plant them, you'll have stronger and taller stems. I just posted a picture, it was just a few days ago on Instagram, of myself with a bucket of larkspur standing in front of my bed of larkspur. And I grow giant imperial blue larkspur, and that larkspur is taller than I am. I'm 5'5". And it's only because I fall plant my larkspur. That's the only reason why it's so vigorous and big and wonderful. And it's all thanks to Lisa. So thank you, Lisa, for writing this wonderful book. Check Lisa out on all social media outlets. She's pretty much present everywhere. You'll get a ton of great information from her. And you know what? The book tells you something too. You see, this is a small book, but it doesn't matter. It has everything you need to succeed in it. Same way with the way Lisa speaks. She just tells you exactly what you need to know. Follow her instructions. She has not led me wrong yet. The next book is called The Flower Hunter, Seasonal Flowers Inspired by Nature and Gathered from the Garden. Doesn't that sound wonderful already? Written by the wonderful Lucy Hunter. I believe this is Lucy's first book. But immediately upon opening the pages of this book, I knew I was in for a treat. This book sounds like poetry, looks like a dream, and you know why I really like it? I was really trying to think about why. Because you feel like Lucy's friend right from the start. You feel like you're walking through her garden, she's sharing memories of her grandmother with you and kind of trying to embrace the seasonality and wonder and mystery of her grandmother's garden and capture all those things and put them into her floral designs. So it's really florals straight from the heart. And this book features a lot more than just fresh floral designs. She does dried floral design, floral installations on walls, so more of like living art with flowers. She talks about dyeing fabrics with flowers, but then look at this. This is amazing. She creates her own handmade journals with natural ingredients and then puts her hand-dyed satins where she used flower petals to, make the satin, pressed flowers she houses in there, vintage floral wallpapers. I mean, how delightfully romantic. This is just a wonderful book and a moving book from start to finish. Last on my list is Martha's Flowers, a practical guide to growing, gathering, and enjoying. And like I said at the beginning, it's so hard to choose just 10 essential flower gardening books. But I decided to end with this book in particular because my grandmother's name was Martha. And Martha Stewart's programs were always playing in the background of her home. Although I'm certain she never sat down to watch them because she pretty much never sat down at all. She was always doing something for someone else. But nevertheless, I thought, why not include a book by her namesake on the list? And it really is a great flower book. So this book is written by Martha Stewart. It says with Kevin Sharkey. I'm not sure if he's writing here or arranging. Sorry, I'm not sure on that. But basically, Martha walks you through all the different flowers that are out there. But I think the main reason for putting this book on the list and something worthwhile highlighting is that almost every single flower in here has a troubleshooting section. And if you've been gardening for any amount of time, you can probably agree with me that it's not necessarily the how-to, it's the, oh my goodness, what's wrong with that? Or what bug is that? Or what disease is that? Or why is this yellow? And why is this wilting? Why are these leaves browning? It's that kind of stuff that we all need help with, right? And I think the troubleshooting section is such a valuable part of this book that's often left off of other books. I mean, to be honest, I don't think there are many other books that I've read that have a troubleshooting section that aren't textbooks. Let me know if you have any flower book recommendations that have troubleshooting sections that are written more for like the home gardener or the small scale cut flower grower, because I would really like to own those. But that brings us to the end of the list, and I hope I've touched on one that maybe piques your interest. It's so nice to kind of snuggle up with a flower book on a cold, snowy day and just have a nice cup of tea and maybe a biscotti or a pizzelle and kind of dream of what's to come in the next year. So I want to wish you all a great day and happy gardening. Bye.